If we start to lose our physical power, we start to just lose our power overall. And so I looked at this one, all right, if what we're really losing as we age is that type 2 muscle fiber. And as we start to lose that, it starts to impact everything. It starts to impact your confidence, how you show up. And I thought, what if we could flip that? Let's just flip that script and let's start to train to age powerfully.
Okay, welcome to the show.
I am so excited to be here, and I'm so happy that you are bringing nutrition and fitness into this conversation.
Absolutely. I love it. And I'll tell you, health and wellness, nutrition, fitness, biohacking, etc., have all been a huge part of my journey through recovery. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you because it's a massive compliment to everything that I talk about and everything that I'm about.
Well, I love what you're doing because I will tell you, you don't know this. I was listening to all that and I thought, gosh, I was thinking back to when I lived in Palm Desert and I had a wellness center there. And we had a lot of people who had gone to Betty Ford. And while I was, one of my clients relapsed and I went to see her in Betty Ford. And I remember being, first of all, very frustrated because they took all of her supplements away.
Right.
I was like, wait a minute, wait.
Right.
Hold on. So they took all her supplements away. And then I go in there and it's like a candy fest in there. And I thought, okay, this is like the exact opposite of what I think we need to get your chemical balance back on track. So yeah, hopefully things have shifted since then. And, I know at your place, these things don't happen. So I'm really, really loving that you pull all of this in because it's key.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, food, nutrition, sleep, exercise, like all of it, it all works together with mental health, addiction, depression, anxiety, like all of it. So,
Yep.
So yes. So the title of this episode is going to be Aging Powerfully. So what does aging powerfully mean to you?
So it's interesting. I think when we were together, I turned 60 and I got myself all fired up for this birthday.
Right.
And so here I was like a year and a half before this birthday, planning for this birthday, planning that this was going to be my most powerful decade to date. Not saying that's going to be my most powerful decade because, then there's going to be the 70th. We'll see what happens. Right? Like, it's always additive, right? It's exponential. So, and I'd heard this quote, Mark Hyman told me about this study that was, that said that if you are positive about aging, you live 7.5 years longer than people who don't. And as we know in what we do, mindset is key. Like, thoughts create. You aren't going to blow past your perceptions of reality. So I doubled down on that idea that I was going to be super fired up about aging. And so I decided to get into the best shape of my life at 60. And the reality is I've never really been out of shape. I started lifting weights when I was 16. And then I, of course, brought my husband with me.
Right.
And so the first thing we did was go and get a DEXA scan. Now, here's what happens as we age. And I say this happens, but it does not have to. Left unchecked, starting at around age 30, the way that we build muscle shifts, and we have to rely on something on our diet and actual exercise more than hormones. So starting around age 30, if you are not doing what you need to do actively in terms of the protein you need and the resistance training you need, you start to lose muscle. And it can be, 3 to 8% a decade. It starts to double at age 60. But that is actually not the big problem. The big problem is, along with that muscle, you lose strength. And the best way to explain that, I was always the jar opener in my house. And a couple of years ago, I went to open a jar and I realized I couldn't open the jar. And I went to hand the jar to my husband. And then I went, wait a minute, hold on. This is not just, I can't open the jar. This is a oh crap moment. Right. But that's not even the biggest problem. And you'll see this. I mean, you could see this just by looking at our current president, shuffling, going slower, tripping, you lose your power. And I believe that the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. And if we start to lose our physical power, we start to just lose our power overall. And so I looked at this and went, all right, if what we're really losing as we age is that type 2 muscle fiber, and as we start to lose that, it starts to impact everything. It starts to impact your confidence, how you show up. And I thought, what if we could flip that? Let's just flip that script and let's start to train to age powerfully. And so that's what aging powerfully means to me is what do we need to do to show up at our strongest, most powerful self in our 60th, 70th, 80th, and if we want to think about what we want to do, say, at 95, well, we better be training for it and really building a strong foundation. It's just like retiring. If you knew you wanted to retire at 70, you wouldn't wait till you were 65 and go, okay, I better save something.
Right.
You'd go, I'm going to start really building this right now so I can compound as much interest as possible so I can live the life I want to live. It's exactly the same with your fitness.
I love it. I love that answer. And by the way, you look fantastic at 60 years. Are you 60 right now?
I'm about to be 60, wonderful. And as you know, I had a luggage pulling injury. So I currently have a hurt elbow. So I'm doing a little bit of a lean forward because I just had prolotherapy. So, but again, right before I went in today to go get prolotherapy, I thought, all right, well, I'm not going to be able to do anything with my upper body for 2 weeks. So I better do battle ropes, pull-ups, and burpees and snatches and medicine ball throws before I go in. Because I was like, it's not like I can hurt it worse at this point.
Right. You got 2 weeks to recover or however long, right?
Right. I was like, now I'm kind of going, well, that probably wasn't the smartest move. But the types of things that I incorporated in are what we have to think of as we age. Walking in a little Pilates is not going to cut it as you age.
Right. And I love that. And we were at the Wizard Academy together, and I remember you. I mean, there's everything about you. You really walk the walk, which is so important to aging powerfully. We stopped by Whole Foods before I drove with you from the airport. We went to Whole Foods and you picked up the food to make sure that you had the nutrition and the food that was going to fuel your body, the food that you needed. And then you were exercising and you were getting in your fitness at the little gym there as well. So you were doing all of those things. It's a lifestyle. And if you want to continue being young as you get older, you've got to continue doing those things. And I also, the other thing that we talked about before we hopped on the show was how mental, emotional, spiritual health it ties into physical health. So I just think about, you talk about Joe Biden and he's walking around confused, and it's like, to continue with the physical exercise, it's going to absolutely affect you mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, what do we know about exercise? And here's the thing, Tim, I started as an exercise physiologist, and I was all the way up in a PhD program, and I had sort of run out of exercise physiology classes to take. This was like, in the 80s. And so it was supposed to be exercise physiology, nutrition, and aging. And I got really into the nutrition side of things. Mm-hmm. And I sort of felt like at the time, like exercise was sort of, I don't know, we were like the peasants, right? And everything was about nutrition and integrative medicine. So I kind of left my roots over there and came over to the nutrition and functional medicine and hormones and all the cool stuff. But as you start to look at aging and you look at everything from brain function, bone health, insulin sensitivity, immune function, I mean, ability to move, all of it, exercise is the single thing. If you look at all the hallmarks of aging, it's the one thing, it's the one lever that will move all of those rocks, that one. And, we talk about brain health. My son had a massive traumatic brain injury. One of the first things we started getting him to do was exercise, because we knew that we could actually regenerate his neurons with exercise. It raises BDNF alpha. You have someone who is depressed, exercise, right? Mm-hmm, anxious, yeah. Exercise. Like when I was in the hospital with my son, because he was in a coma and in the hospital for months, one of the first things I did was start to run up and down the hospital stairs because I had to blow off that steam. I was like, this is going to go somewhere. It's like a wild animal, it has to shake it off, right? I was like, it's better be shaken off, otherwise I'm going to blow up. Which was fun at that hospital. I started to notice, like, I started a thing where all of a sudden there's a whole lot of people running up and down the stairs.
Down the stairs. I love it. Right,
It's
right.
great.
Yeah, you know, and I just think about like I've been in recovery since 2011, and that was kind of a period of time, like that was a point in time when I really shifted to exercise and fitness and health, and I feel better today than I've ever felt. And I know lots of other people that are in recovery. It's kind of the same thing. I don't know. It's weird. We get into recovery and now we're all focused on health and wellness and fitness and exercise. And
oh my God, you health nuts.
Yeah,
remember when we were all like,
we all become health nuts, and we're into biohacking, and we're into lifting weights, and we're into cold plunging, and we're into red light, and we're into all that stuff.
It's so funny because literally, you know, I started getting into this at age 12 and started going to the library and reading nutrition books and teaching dance class. And for decades, it has been, if you're into this, you're like a weirdo, like a health nut, as if this is a bad thing. I'm like, I really can't understand for the life of me why would it be bad to be into personal development. That's the other one that they kind of make scoff at. Oh, you know, or bad to be into your health. I mean, if you're not interested in your health, what else is there? Like, because you don't have that, it just doesn't matter. And if you think about it, when I was on Freaky Eaters, we would have these people who would only eat one food or predominantly eat one food. Mm-hmm. And by the way, it wasn't salmon.
Right.
Never once was it salmon or broccoli. Nope. It was like cheese or potatoes or sugar. Right. And so we would have to put lateral activities in and things that they could do so they couldn't do the other thing. And when you think about it, if you're shifting your identity, you know, because people often ask me, Tim, how do I make sure once I've gotten to a place where I'm healthy and fit that I stay there? And I go, well, you just find fitter friends. And so you think about it coming into a recovery. How do you stay there? Well, replace all of this with all these healthy activities, with hanging out with people who are now going to, you know, CrossFit or running a marathon or whatever the thing is that floats your boat that's out in the fitness world. Take healthy cooking classes, right? Just replace it, swap it out.
Yeah. Spend time with people that are doing the things that you want to do. Spend time with people that look the way you want to look, act the way you want to look, you know, that's how you change your life. It's all about the environment. The environment always wins. Yes. And so surrounding yourself with people, and if you look at like groups of friends, I mean, even at a very young age, you look at like friends, they typically all look the same.
Well, what they found about obesity, and then I'll share a hack that I found about exercise. What they found about obesity is that it is contagious. Just like your income tends to be the average of the 5 people you hang out with. Right. Turns out obesity is the same, but it doesn't matter if that friend's next door to you or across the country. Huh. Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
And I figured out something pretty interesting to do because they always say, don't be the smartest person in the room.
Right.
And so my whole thing is, okay, don't be the oldest person in the room. I go into these fitness classes and I look for the class, like either the hot yoga or the HIIT class, where I go in and I'm like, I could actually probably be everybody's grandmother, not just their mom. You know? Right. We go into those classes because you're going to walk in and, you know, it's really interesting as an adult to go into a place where you don't really know what to do. You're going to do it wrong. You're going to look stupid, you know, you're not going to be good, right? There's so much mental stuff around that's amazing, that pushes you out of your comfort zone. So that's another one that I've been working on that I think is kind of a cool.
To get a free copy of the 12-step guide that I created for you, click on the link in the description below.
A cool one to think about because it's really easy to get into ruts with all this stuff and not continue to progress. And especially if you want to age powerfully, you can't just continue to do the same thing. You actually have to continue to progress.
Right. And I think it's always looking for different opportunities. So how, in your opinion, how would someone continue progressing?
Oh, there's all sorts of different ways to continue to progress. So Just in a resistance training routine, you can progress by changing the tempo, changing the sets, changing the reps, increasing the weight, and changing the difficulty of the movement. In your exercise overall, you can change up things. If you're like, someone who does the Peloton all the time, like I just got a sprint treadmill, alternate with that. If you've been doing, regular yoga, go to hot yoga, change things up. And one of the things I find by traveling a lot is that I have to change things up. So I'm always, shifting things around, but getting that variety in there. I just did an interview yesterday with Tony Horton, who created P90X. And that was his whole thing is like, you just get a bunch of variety. Now, in exercise, you do also want some consistency as you're building muscle. Like I like to think of things in 8 to 12 week segments for the resistance training thing, of where you're really pushing specific exercises and increasing. But there's so much variety beyond that you can do with, the different types of exercises, like going to a CrossFit class, et cetera. So, you continue to progress by doing what exercise, the true definition of exercise is, which is doing more than what your body is used to. So it has to adapt to get stronger.
Right.
And that's why, activity overall is important, but walking, unless you're very deconditioned, is not exercise, it's activity. We want to do a lot of it. Naturally, we should, but your body's not adapting. Right? From that walk you just did, unless you sprinted up hills, it's not adapting.
Yeah. And I love, what I personally like to do is I like to do different activities. Like, for example, I did a couple of half marathons last year. I hiked the Grand Canyon. I did rim to rim to rim. I'm cycling. I'm doing the Tour de Scottsdale, a little cycling race here in a couple of weeks. So it's like focusing, doing different exercises that way, and having different, for me, I like having a goal. I like having a race. I like having an event or something like that I'm training for. And then a lot of times I like to hire a coach too, because, I think
it's fantastic. And there's a couple takeaways from what you just said. The first takeaway is, what motivates you.
Right.
So you find a thing that motivates you. And then if you don't know quite how to do it the best way, you find someone who does and you hire them. I've been working on, like, the first thing I worked on over the last couple of years was getting my meditation solid. So that was a biggie for me. And I did that. And then once I got that one and I started monitoring HRV, then I started to work on increasing my strength and hypertrophy. Then once I got that, I'm now really working on power. So, and I'll just track these things, for a while there, I was working on making sure I was getting the step count I needed in. So, and again, one by one until that becomes habitual, and then adding in the next thing.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question now that I should have asked at the beginning. What gives you the right to claim you are an expert on aging powerfully?
That is interesting. So one, because I'm 60. It is interesting. I've been in the field since I was, I literally started teaching dance class in my teens. And then I went off to UCLA on a theater scholarship and started teaching aerobics. And then someone wanted me to come to their house, and all of a sudden I'm personal training. And then I was like, well, I guess I better start learning really what's going on. And that's when I went to grad school for exercise science. But I think when you look at this, there's so much to really being an expert. There's both the scientific rigor and understanding, knowing the science, and knowing not just the research, but how your body works. But then there's also the field experience. Because what I learned in school was that what we were being taught didn't necessarily work in the field.
Right.
I'm like, well, this is great in a lab where you have students that have to come in, but in the real, out in the wild over there, this has got to work. And so my best teacher has always been being out in the wild, being out in the field, really understanding what's going on. So I think having the research, and every day now I'm going through the research. I'll tell you, Tim, I feel like I know less now than ever, because there's such an explosion of research all the time that you have access to. I mean, you used to have to go into the library and the stacks and dig through stuff. Now you can, like, every single day, there's something new out. You could spend all your time doing that. So it's understanding the mechanisms, pathways, staying up on the research, but also having the field experience and actually not only doing it yourself, but doing it with enough people over time so that you understand, what all has to happen for someone to be successful. Because you can outline the best program, but if someone's not going to do it, it doesn't matter. There's a person on the other side that actually has to do something with this. And then the other side of it, when you really look at what it takes to age powerfully, I really look at this with 3 pillars and then something underlying it. And I like to simplify things down and major in the majors before going into the minors. One of my arguments with biohacking is I feel like people jump into that before they've majored in the majors. And I'm like, all right, you're biohacking, but your diet sucks.
Right.
You're biohacking, but you're not actually moving. You're trying to figure out how to only sleep 5 hours a night. No, just get some good quality sleep, stop that. So, the first thing that always has to underlie all of this is mindset. I was fortunate at age 30 to work with one of the top mindset coaches in the world, arguably, and that's where I really got dialed in on mindset. But then the 3 real pillars are, food, what you eat, how you fuel your body, then the supplements that you put alongside that, how you move, both exercise and activity, and then how you recover. And that's everything from stress, sleep, all the biohacking tools we could do. And so I've been fortunate to really go deep into all of those areas and study them. But again, I always like to take the high level view. And before we start to worry about which supplement you should take, it's like, let's just make sure you're actually eating enough protein.
Right. Protein first.
Protein first. And then, you're sitting here worried. We'll get people like, okay, should I be doing, red light and this? I'm like, let's just make sure you're actually moving.
Right.
How much movement are you? You're worried about, the power exercise you're doing, but you're getting 4,000 steps in a day.
Right.
So I think one of the things we really have to look at is when you major in the majors. And right now I'm actually working with someone who has about 200 pounds to lose. So we're on this journey and we're down 10, 11 pounds right now. Just started, been at this a month. And it was funny because there's a team that wanted to get involved and they're all supporting him. And I'm like, okay, but we are not going to all throw, because everyone had things they wanted him to do. I go, everyone stop.
Right.
Stop it. All we're going to start with are the steps and the protein. Once we get the steps and the protein, okay, now we're putting a CGM on, one by one by one. We're going with the biggest pillars and then we keep going down and down and down.
Right.
And, and seeing what we can correct, because so many things correct just when you eat protein first, get your optimal protein in, add in non-starchy vegetables, a little fruit. When you move more and get in that 8 to 12,000 steps and then start to add that resistance training in, when you make sure you're prioritizing sleep and getting your quality sleep. I do not believe in this whole idea of hacking your sleep. It's ridiculous. When you do something mindful to manage your sleep, your stress, and get in community, so many things fixed just with that. Right?
Yeah, it's like everything, and this is what I'm hearing you say, and this is what I believe. And this is my experience. They all feed off of each other. I eat healthy. I want to exercise. I exercise. I want more sleep. I'm able to go to sleep. I get up early. I'm able to have a good, solid day. Everything kind of feeds off of each other. So to your point, things correct themselves if you just work on the main things first.
Yeah. Do the main things first. And here's what's interesting. One poor night of sleep, this, I know this, I've experienced it. This is why with travel and time zone adjusting, I'm crazy with how I go through it to make sure that this doesn't happen. Because one poor night of sleep, you're more insulin resistant, your ghrelin's up, you're hungrier. So, your cortisol's up. So not only you're hungry, you're going to be better at storing fat around your belly. You're more insulin resistant, worse at burning fat off. You're tired. You don't want to exercise. You're going to want sugar. It's the whole thing. One night. That's one night.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just talking with a good friend yesterday, my friend Ben, and he's not an alcoholic. He's not in recovery. He drinks like a normal person. And he had something happen to him. And he was in the hospital for a couple of weeks back in January, and he hasn't drank alcohol since. And he's saying everything is so much better. He sleeps better. He feels better. He feels smarter. He's in a better mood, and just everything about him. He's like, man, I don't even think I want to go back to drinking at all because I feel so much better about myself.
I mean, it's the same with sugar. It's the same with moving. It's all of them.
Yeah, you get one night of bad sleep, and that's kind of where that's what made me think of that is,
yeah,
if you drink alcohol, you're going to have a pretty bad night of sleep.
Yeah, you're going to have a bad night's sleep.
Yeah, yeah. And it leads to all the other things.
And here's what's great about all this, because when I'm working with people, I don't want to say, hey, you can never eat that again.
Right.
What you start to do is you become curious.
Right.
And if you're watching your metrics, you're watching your sleep, maybe you're wearing a CGM, you're looking at your body composition over time, and you go, wow, when I eat late before bed, look what happens.
Right.
Or when I have more than one glass of wine, look what happens. Or even one glass of wine. So you just go through, if I have coffee too late in the day, look what happens.
Right.
And so you just get curious because, hey, if we know you eat late at night, your blood sugar is hijacked, you don't sleep well, you wake up, you feel like crap, you don't do it again.
Yeah, it's just getting curious and paying attention. And hey, guess what? Sometimes I forget and I have a cup of coffee at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I lay in bed and I'm not able to sleep. And it's like, oh man, that was a terrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I just continue learning, and then I test and I learn, and there's a reminder.
But I think it's curious is the important word, because especially for women, we actually don't act curious. We act judgmental. Okay. We're like our own mean girlfriend sitting on our shoulder going, can't believe you did that, right?
Right.
So that's why I always say curious, because, I love Dr. Joe Dispenza of, forgive your beautiful self. Right. Like slip ups are going to happen and all sorts of things, and there are times when you might eat a piece of birthday cake. It's your birthday. Right. And you want to, and like, fine, it's like,
that reminds me of the in the 4 Agreements. I don't remember which chapter it is, but he talks about, as humans, we judge ourselves over and over, and we beat ourselves up over and over and over again for decisions.
Everything. I was going to say for everything.
For everything, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, it's like, let it go.
Mm-hmm. If you could only choose 3 things to improve how we age, what would they be?
They're not what you think they are. Okay, so first one, have a purpose. I just interviewed Chip Conley, who wrote, it's something like Lessons for Midlife, and he has the Modern Elder Academy. He's the guy who was brought in by Airbnb, the founders, who were then 26 years old, and he had a hospitality company, and they brought him in, and he was 52, and they called him the Modern Elder. And he didn't speak tech, and he's like, what am I going to do here? Anyway, he said something that I think is so profound. He goes, as we age, it's not about being respected. It's about being relevant. And I'm in a group with some of the top transformational leaders in the world. And some of them are in their 70s and 80s. And what I see them struggling with is that very thing. They've sold their companies. They're like, how do I stay relevant? And so it's what is your calling? What is your purpose? What are you here to do? This whole idea of retirement, I just don't even remotely understand this.
Right.
Like if you're on a mission, if you're a mission-driven entrepreneur, or just a mission-driven human, you're put here to make a dent in the universe. You've got something to do. Well, that's going to keep you going. So that's the first one. Have a purpose, and you're continuing to learn and grow and, stay relevant. The next one is have an amazing group of humans. Like have that group of friends, family.
If you got value from this video, If you heard what you needed to hear, be sure to like it. Comment if you've got a question or you have something to say. Subscribe to the channel. Camelback Recovery provides treatment services for people struggling with mental health, mental illness, addiction, alcoholism, whatever it may be. So if you or a loved one is struggling and you need some guidance and you need some direction, reach out to us. Our contact information is down below, or you can go to our website, camelbackrecovery.com, whether it be detox, inpatient treatment, outpatient treatments, recovery coaching, sober companion services, whatever it may be. Like I said, we can either help you or make sure that you get sent in the right direction. We help people all over the country, all over the world for that matter. I'll see you on the next video.